Quadratic formula is ubiquitous across algebra classes around the globe. You probably had to memorize this equation at some point in your academic career, perhaps to the tune of a song. And it is x equals negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This wonderful formula allows us to find the roots of a quadratic polynomial equation using only radicals, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. What you may not know is this equation is quite old. The absolute number multiplied by 4 times the square, add to the square of the middle term, the square root of the same, less the middle term, being divided by twice the square is the value. This is the quadratic formula, as told in a poem in 628 CE by Indian mathematician and astronomer Brahmagupta. It is written as a poem because symbolic notation for math, that is, written equations with plus and minus signs, would not arise for almost 1,000 years. Schools typically stop teaching polynomial root formulas at this point, but this does not mean that they end. The cubic equation adds another variable. This is one raised to the power of 3. Doing so causes much pain for a mathematician attempting to find solutions, and a solution was not published until 1545. Tartagli and Cardano were two Italian mathematicians in the 16th century, a time where mathematics was full of drama. Mathematicians would gain prestige and income by challenging other mathematicians to mathematical duels. These would involve sending problems to rival schools and trying to solve more of their problems than they could of yours. These duels typically involved very large wagers, meaning a unique problem could be extremely profitable. Tartagli had a formula for the roots of cubic equations, and used this to become quite wealthy. In private, he told his good friend Cardano about this formula. 6 years later, Cardano published this formula, claiming that his publication was actually the work of Del Ferro, who had solved the problem some years before Tartagli. Tartagli felt infuriated and betrayed, and began a decade-long poem-writing campaign against Cardano, challenging him to numerous math battles that were always declined. Eventually, a student of Cardano accepted a duel and defeated Tartagli, taking all of his prestige and a considerable chunk of his wealth. One thing that might stick out to you about this cubic formula is that there is no plus-minus sign. And yet, this equation does yield 3 outputs. This is due to complex or imaginary numbers in the use of this formula. A cube root of a real number spits out 1 real solution and 2 imaginary ones. That is the reason that this formula took some 900 years to create, because of this very non-obvious discovery of complex numbers. In the same paper as the cubic, Cardano also published a formula for the quartic, which can be seen here. This is not the entire quartic formula. This will give 1 of the 4 roots. The other 3 parts are of similar length. It would be natural to ask next about higher degree polynomials, the degree 5, degree 6, and so on. But this question would not be answered until the turn of the 19th century. Finally, we meet Évariste Galois, a young genius growing up in the aftermath of the French Revolution. Galois studied mathematics at prestigious universities across France and participated in a fair share of political rallies. He was arrested shortly after the July Rebellion for conspiracy to overthrow the newly established government. He was in prison for months, doing nothing but math with his free time. Shortly after his release, he was challenged to a duel. Not a math duel, mind you, a pistol duel. He accepted this duel under mysterious circumstances, and knowing that his fate was grim, he stayed up the entire night before the duel, writing his final and most important contribution to mathematical history. He died the next day, left on the road with a gunshot in his chest and manuscripts in his pocket. In these papers, it was revealed that there could be no quintic formula. It was simply impossible with only radicals, nor could there be any higher polynomial formulas. This would start a whole new branch of mathematics, Galois theory. This goes to show that if you want to live a life of comfort and class, you should become a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor. But if you crave excitement, drama, and danger, it is clear that one must become a mathematician. Thank you so much for watching.